Well, now that I've let the 808 out of the bag, see what I did there, because 808's the cat from Hi-Fi Rush. Well, everyone's a creep. Whatever. Anyway, greetings and salutations. This is Techrodon here with more A Hat in Time, and what I was referring to is the new intro I'm using basically spoils the next Let's Play. Which I don't know if I've mentioned the next Let's Play at all, but it's gonna be Hi-Fi Rush. I'm sorry, I hit my mic. I did not mean to do that. It's gonna be Hi-Fi Rush. It's gonna be uploaded alongside Life is Strange: True Colors. I'm doing a thing this season where I try to upload 2 games at a time, because last season I kind of went for a 1 game at a time type deal and only did 2 games at a time at certain points. This time I'm going to be doing 2 games at a time the whole season, because there's planned to be 6 Let's Plays in total. Actually, I have all 6 games selected too, but 4 of them are already finished recording. The 5th one is in the process of being recorded, which is .hack GU Volume 2, and then the 6th one is going to be Resident Evil Revelations 2. I almost had the whole season planned from the start, but I made a few adjustments. Such as, I was originally going to do SpongeBob Battle for Bikini Bottom Rehydrated, but replaced it with A Hat in Time. I was originally going to do Bioshock 2, but replaced it with Hi-Fi Rush. That's the only differences I made. It was always planned for me to do the first 2 volumes of .hack GU, as well as Life is Strange: True Colors and Resident Evil Revelations 2. Now, I will be doing the Bioshock games next volume. However, here's an exception I might make. If this season, if I end up being done with all 6 of these Let's Plays by October, by the end of October, I will do the first Bioshock game to end the season off and just have 7 games this season. These Let's Plays are shorter now that I'm doing longer videos, so I feel that I might need to do a 7th Let's Play to kind of get the right length of the season, because I like these seasons to kind of last almost all year, you know? I take like a month or 2 of a break between seasons, but other than that, I want them to last like almost a whole year, you get what I'm saying? Like, I don't want this to be over before the end of October. So, if I end up finishing all 6 of these Let's Plays before the end of October, I will do the first Bioshock game to end it off. Now, that's not guaranteed, though. That's not guaranteed. I might end up deciding on a different game. But the Bioshock games are, like, at least Bioshock 1 and 2. I'm not a big fan of Infinite, and I don't plan on doing a Let's Play for it. Especially because it says a certain word a couple times in it. I mean, the words are only in, like, voice things you pick up. But I still don't want that word in my video. I don't want to have to worry about censoring that word. So, that's kind of the main reason I'm gonna avoid ever doing like a Let's Play of Bioshock Infinite. But the other reason is I just don't like the gameplay of it as much as Bioshock 1 and 2. So if I do any Bioshock games this season, it's gonna be the first one. Originally I was gonna start with Bioshock 2, but then I decided that was kind of stupid. It kind of makes more sense to start with the first game. And I've already made the mistake of starting like in the middle of a series before. Like I did that with Resident Evil, Crash Bandicoot, Sonic the Hedgehog. In the case of Sonic the Hedgehog, it's just kind of hard to do every game in the series because there's so many of them. With Resident Evil, I just haven't gotten to the Resident Evil 1 remake yet. That's really all I'm missing, because I did them out of order, but I kind of did all the remakes except 1 and Village. I'm doing Revelations 2 this season. That's the one I've chosen because it's my favorite out of the ones I haven't done yet. Resident Evil 1 Remake and Resident Evil Revelations 1 are both games I'm also going to do. 7 is not guaranteed. I've already mentioned before that, like, I'm not a big fan of 7. I kind of was the first couple years after it was released, but over time, especially after we got games I consider better, like Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil Village, Resident Evil 4, and then I went back and played the Revelations games, I kind of realized Resident Evil 7 is just not as fun as them. Like, it's a good game, don't get me wrong, but I don't get as much enjoyment out of replaying it as I do the other games. Like, to me, it has way less replay value than the other games. And part of that is because, like, how much of a slog it is to replay because of the unskippable cutscenes. Even Village has unskippable cuts, or not unskippable. Even Village has skippable cutscenes, but 7 has to be special and not let you skip any at all. I mean, I wouldn't really skip cutscenes for a 7 Let's Play anyway, but it's kind of what makes it hard for me to replay the game on my own time outside of doing Let's Plays. Because all the other Resident Evil games I mentioned, the remakes of 1 through 4, even if 3 is like kind of not as good as the other ones, it's kind of fun to replay it sometimes if I just want to like have a little short experience, you know. It definitely was not worth the full $60 price tag. I kind of got it on sale, but that's beyond the point. But the remakes of 1 through 4 and the Revelations games and Village, to me, are way more fun to replay because you could skip the cutscenes. There's a lot of extra shit you can do in those games. It's just fun. 7 has some extra shit you can do, but you gotta sit through the slog that are the unskippable cutscenes on replays. Also, I kinda am not a fan of how, like, the gun aiming in 7 works compared to other games because it's kinda jank. Jank is a word I kinda don't want to use too often because, like, it's a word people like to use to basically say Sonic game's bad. And yeah, I mean, jank actually does make sense for like a game like Sonic Forces or 06, but some people just complain about Sonic games that don't actually have jank. Like, I recently like replayed a bit of Sonic Heroes and I was like, okay, this game is not as jank as I've heard people say. Because I had, keep in mind, I hadn't played that game since I was like 8. So like in my mind I was like, okay, they might be right. It might just be nostalgia blinding me. But then I actually like played it for a little bit and I'm like, okay, y'all are actually wrong about this. The controls are actually fine. It must be a skill issue or something. And I hate, a skill issue is also a thing I hate because like it's just like the dumbest argument ever in most cases, but literally I think I finally found something where skill issue is actually a valid like answer, because I actually do think a part of why people bitch and moan about Sonic Heroes controls is a skill issue thing, because the homing attack is wonky and so is the light speed dash. I will completely agree with those parts of the argument. But people try to say the characters are extra slippery and stuff, and I don't know if this is because I'm someone who's played 3D platformers my whole life, and I played Sonic Heroes a lot when I was younger, but the slipperiness didn't get me killed or anything the few hours I was playing it. By the way, you might get a Let's Play from me doing that game in the future, depending on how things go, but yeah. But I'm trying to avoid doing too many Sonic games or Resident Evil games this volume of Run On Games because I've already done a bunch of them. For Sonic, I've done Frontiers, Rush Adventure, Sonic 3 and Knuckles. I was going to do Sonic Forces, but I kind of decided against it because halfway through I was like, I'm literally forcing myself to play a game I hate just for content. Nah, I'm not doing this. I may do a Team Sonic Racing Let's Play one day, and if I'm kind of half and half if I want to get, you will get a Let's Play from me of Sonic Generations if I do get Sonic and Shadow Generations when it comes out. I do plan to get that either way. So you will get a Let's Play out of me then, and that's really the thing I was thinking about when I was saying, like, something might change. When I said I might do BioShock to end off this season of Run On Games. What I meant by something might change is that Sonic and Shadow Generations is coming out at the end of the year. And if I'm able to get like a pre-order for that, then I'm not going to do BioShock. I'm just going to wait for that to drop and do that as the final Let's Play of the season. But yeah, as I talked about earlier, we got Hi-Fi Rush coming for the Let's Play for this season. We got a Hi-Fi Rush Let's Play coming for this volume of run-on games, and that's exciting. This might be the best lineup I've ever had for a volume of run-on games. And don't get me wrong, I had a pretty strong lineup the last couple seasons, the last couple volumes. Like Volume 2 had Spyro the Dragon. It had Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart, Resident Evil Village, Sonic Frontiers, The Walking Dead Season 1. Like that volume of run-on games was stacked. And then last volume we had Resident Evil 4 remake, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Spyro 2, which was a Let's Play I put off forever, but I did get it out there. I'm trying to remember, what else did we have? Resident Evil 3, but that wasn't really, that's not a point towards the stack games. Oh, there was the DLC Separate Ways, which was really good. Trying to remember, I'm missing one Let's Play from last volume. What was it? Tales from the Borderlands. Tales from the Borderlands, Resident Evil 4, Separate Ways, Sonic 3 and Knuckles, Spyro 2. The only game from last volume of run-on games that was kind of weak was Resident Evil 3. So, like, I've been having stacked lineups for each volume, but I think this might top it, because this volume, we got Revelations 2, the Resident Evil Revelations 2, we got Hi-Fi Rush, we got A Hat in Time, we got Life is Strange 2 Colors, Volume 1 and 2 of Dot Hack. We might get Bioshock. If we don't get Bioshock, we're going to get Sonic Generations, which is another goated game. Like, I feel like I'm doing great. I've been doing great since Volume 2. Like, yeah, there are a lot of games on the back burner I could be Let's Playing, but I'm sticking to games I adore. And the reason I'm doing that is because it's more entertaining for me to commentate over those types of games. And it's more entertaining. It makes more entertaining videos because I have more stuff to talk about. If I play a game that I don't care about that much, like Sonic Forces, you're just gonna hear me bitch and moan the whole time. And that's part of why that Let's Play was canceled, because I was like, yeah, I don't want the whole video being me complaining. Like, that's just not my kind of content. I do go on rants and I do complain a lot, but I don't want that to be all there is in the video. I want there to be some positivity, some entertaining jokes, like, etc., etc. I try to be funny in my videos. I can't do that with Sonic Forces because I feel like I just feel like I'm doing something I don't want to do. to be blunt, like, Sonic Forces is just one of those games that it feels like pain to play to me. And I'm like, I can't do this. Like, I was literally hurting myself to play that, and I was like, no, I can't. This game sucks. I'm literally bored to death playing it. The gameplay sucks, the story sucks. I have to edit in the cutscenes because they're scene blocked for some dumbass reason. So, like, I'm sorry, but Sonic Forces is not the game that deserves scene blocks. Like, I'm sorry, but whatever story was gonna be spoiled if they weren't scene blocked there is not worth scene blocking. There's not any spoilers for the story that's worth protecting. Like, I'm sorry, the story is that shit. Like, it's not worth protecting. I would have understood if they did it for, like, Frontiers. Or hell, even Team Sonic Racing. But, fucking Forces, no. Like, I want to know whose idea it was to go, okay, we need to protect spoilers for Sonic Forces. Let's scene block this shit. We can't let people see spoilers for this hot mess of a story. I'm sorry, but that's literally how I feel about that. Sonic Forces has my least favorite story in the entire franchise. I literally just hinted at the fact I think Team Sonic Racing does a better job at storytelling than Sonic Forces. And Team Sonic Racing is all still images and text. There's no animated cutscenes like there is in Forces. So, you know it's bad when a game that's cutscenes are all text boxes and still images is better written than Sonic Forces, because it is. I mean, I guess you could. I guess that kind of isn't too surprising because the Rush games are also better written than Forces by a lot. I think Rush Adventure might be the best that Blaze and Tales have ever been written in the entire franchise. Honestly, I think Rush Adventure is probably the game that gets Blaze's character the best. If I'm to be honest. Her, like, don't get me wrong, Team Sonic Racing does her character a good bit of justice too, and so does the first Rush game, and even like the few lines she has in Generations, even though she's barely there, they feel in character. I'm glad that she's one of the characters, as much as I would have liked to see her in more games, I'm glad she's one of the characters who weren't ruined by the 2010s writing for the series. Like, she just showed up in Generations and Team Sonic Racing, which both handled her decently. Like, I'm glad that her and Silver were spared from that. Even the Chaotix were kind of spared from that too, even though they were in Forces, because quite honestly, the only characters in Forces that actually feel in character, for the most part. Actually, no, I forgot Forces butchered Silver, so no, I guess Silver isn't in that with Blaze and the Chaotix. But if I'm to be honest here, I think the only characters in Forces that didn't feel butchered to hell and back were basically Rouge, Vector, and Espio, and that's it. And the only reasons they weren't is because Rouge was given a spy job in the game. Like, she was a spy for Knuckles, so like it was in character, so a lot of what she said was in character. She felt in character. Omega was also fine, but he was barely there. Vector, for the most part, was just playing, like, I guess, the voice of the Chaotix, because he's the main Chaotix member that talks through the game. And he's kind of just taking this situation seriously, so there's not really much to butcher with him. And then SPO feels exactly in character for the few lines he has. So it's like... And to be honest, you can't really ruin Charmy. Charmy's already annoying. There's no way to ruin Charmy. So, to be honest, I think the only characters that have come out of the 2010s era without ever being butchered are Blaze and the Chaotix. Eggman almost made it. Eggman almost made it. He almost did. And then Sonic Forces came into existence. And they butchered our boy. They butchered Eggman. So bad. And I know, like, there's also, like, a couple bad Eggman moments in Lost World, but for the most part, he's fine in Lost World. I really like him in the Boom sub-series. Like, I like him in the cartoon, I like him in the games. I feel like he's really well written in all of that. I also think he's well written in Generations and Colors. It's just a couple scenes in Lost World, and then, like, all of Forces, where they butchered him. He also feels fine in Team Sonic Racing, and I know, like, me saying fine kind of, like, doesn't sound too positive, but honestly, that's as positive as I could be for the 2010s writing, because I'm not gonna lie, the moment I found out they were gonna have a different writer for Sonic Frontiers was the moment it literally felt like one of my favorite game series was saved. Like, from that moment, I didn't care how bad the gameplay was. I was like, just let the story be good. And that's weird. That's a weird feeling for me, because I always prioritize gameplay over story, but the story and character writing for Sonic games had gotten so bad at that point that I was desperate. So the fact that Frontiers also had good gameplay on top of the story was solid. Now, Frontiers is kind of like Resident Evil 7 to me. Like, over time, I've kind of seen the flaws more, and I don't love it as much as I once did, but I can still acknowledge it's a really good game that did a lot of things right. And honestly, if you think about it, Frontiers did for the Sonic series what Resident Evil 7 did for Resident Evil. You gotta think about that, because Resident Evil was in a really bad spot when 7 came out. 6 was like the worst received game in the series. For some reason, people didn't pay attention to the GOAT, which is Resident Evil Revelations 2, and okay, the GOAT's over-exaggerated. It's not the best game in the series, but it's definitely top 4 for me after Village 2 and 4 Remake. But it's still a really good game. And for some reason, people didn't, pay much attention to that game, so it didn't do that well. And then we got Resident Evil 7, which brought so much attention back to the series because it was back to its roots, even though Revelations 2 already kind of went a little bit back to the roots, because the whole point of the Revelations series was to make a survival horror version of what 4, 5, and 6 were doing. But, it's whatever. Honestly, too, Resident Evil 4 Remake feels like, gameplay-wise, it feels like a spiritual successor to Revelations 2 in a lot of ways, because of the way it plays, the horror, the action ratio, all that stuff. It kind of feels like a spiritual successor to Revelations 2 to me. I might be crazy thinking that, but honestly, that's how I feel. But like I was saying, Resident Evil 7 saved the series. It's why, despite I have many gripes with it these days, because over time I've kind of seen more and more of its flaws, and the only thing I can really enjoy when I go back is Jack Baker and the first couple hours, and that's mostly it. I can still appreciate what it did, and I feel like Frontiers is going to become the same thing for me, because while I do have a much more positive look on Frontiers than I do Resident Evil 7, I feel like over time I'm going to see more and more of its problems, and we're going to get Sonic games after Frontiers, modern Sonic games after Frontiers that are better, and I'm just going to see, oh hey, this game was kind of just a stepping stone. It saved the series. It was a stepping stone towards something better, which is what 7 was, in my opinion. I feel like that's what Frontiers is going to end up being, because if you've seen the interviews and stuff and that, because there's a few things on the internet that point out that the Sonic series would have died if Frontiers didn't do well. You will see my point, because Frontiers, while it's not perfect, it's got many issues, and over time I'm probably going to see more issues than qualities with it, kind of like I do 7. I'm going to always be able to appreciate it for saving a game series I love, and for potentially giving us games that I will end up loving much more after it. Sonic Frontiers is the RE7 of the Sonic series. That's just facts. It's the RE7 of the Sonic series. Just like how Sonic Unleashed was kind of the RE4 of the Sonic series, because it changed up. Because up until RE6, or not RE6, up until RE4 and Sonic Unleashed, in both series, the formula for the gameplay was mostly the same outside of spin-offs like the Rush games. The formula was mostly the same. You have the spin dash, you have the homing attack, all that stuff. Heroes changed it up a little bit, but it still kind of followed the same, similar stuff, So, the thing with Resident Evil was 4 was the shift to action-oriented stuff. And I feel like what 4 and Unleashed did for both series, it's kind of weird. If you hear noise, by the way, I'm pouring me some drink. But it's kind of weird how similar it actually is when you really start to think about it. Because 4 is basically the Sonic Unleashed of the RE series, and Sonic Unleashed is the RE4 of the Sonic series. But when you think of it like that, that means that RE5 is hold on. When you think of it like that, RE5 and the Revelations games are like the colors and generations of the RE series, and vice versa. And then Forces is the RE6 of the Sonic series, and vice versa. It makes a lot of sense when you put it that way. The games might not have been released in that order. If I had to be more specific, I'd say the Revelations games are probably the representation of Sonic Generations in the RE series, even though they aren't Well, no, I considered Revelations 1 like colors, and Revelations 2 like generations. And then like the RE5 of the Sonic series would have been like Lost World, and then Forces the RE6. And I'm mostly going on how well received they were, not necessarily on how well they sold or how the gameplay works in each game. I'm kind of going on how well received they were, because Forces and RE6 are the worst received games in both those franchises from my memory.
You can take my final movie prop as your last movie star.
And then that's just what it seems like. It's kind of weird comparing them too, because they also both came from the 90s, so it's like they're the only two game series I'm a fan of that have been around. No, Crash has been around long enough, but Crash went on hiatus for like 10 years. So they're the only two game series I've like played, I'm a fan of, that have kind of gone through like similar stuff. Because Crash Bandicoot went on a 10-year hiatus. It actually did die, and then it got revived with the Insane Trilogy. And then that just made me come to a realization that technically Mind Over Mutant and of the Crash of the Titans are the RE5 and 6 of the Crash series. The Insane Trilogy is the RE7 of the Crash series, which is funny because the Insane Trilogy released the same year as RE7. You could kind of make that comparison too. Every series that's been around at least since the early 2000s has had their RE6 and their RE7 by now. Every series has had them. Even Ratchet and Clank, a series that I feel like has done way better in terms of how good the games are compared to a lot of other games I've been a fan of for years, has its RE6 and RE7 when you think about it, because Ratchet and Clank's RE6 would be Full Frontal Assault, and its RE7 would be Rift Apart. When you think about it, just think. Like, every game series has their RE6 and RE7. Eventually. Because there's no guarantee, like, no game series is gonna be, like, just put out banger after banger. They're all eventually gonna have a bad game. And then, like, in most cases, that bad game won't be the only bad game. It'll be like 2 or 3 in a row, and then the game series will be saved a few years down the line by a really good game. In this case, the ones I've mentioned as examples would be Rift Apart. And apparently Rift Apart didn't sell well, which is news to me because it's a really good game. I don't know why it wouldn't have done well, but I'm kind of scared for the Ratchet and Clank series after learning that, not gonna lie, because Rift Apart did what the series needed to do. And it feels like, I don't know. I'm just glad, it just kind of makes me glad that Insomniac is not Sega, because if they were Sega, they would tell Sonic team to just, okay, this game didn't do well, you gotta do something different, because that's literally the Sega's mindset with Sonic, which is so annoying, but you know, it's whatever. Which kind of makes me glad that Frontiers did well enough, though, because that means they could finally expand on a new formula that's not the boost formula. And even though I'm not one of the people who hate the boost formula, I do think they should have dropped it permanently after Generations, because they had 3 really good games with it. And then after Generations, it just doesn't feel necessary anymore. They had 3 really good games with it, 5 if you count the Rush games. They didn't need to do it anymore. Then they brought it back to Frontiers and butchered it. Like, my mindset there is that they obviously had a lot of, like, newer developers who never worked on Generations, Colors, and Unleashed for, when it came to Forces, so they should have just developed a new gameplay style that those developers were comfortable or competent at making, because obviously they weren't comfortable and confident with the boost, or not confident, they weren't comfortable and competent with the boost formula. So that's just my thought there. That's no shade to Sonic Team, by the way. That's no shade to them. I just feel like different devs have different strengths and weaknesses. Like, one person who might be really good at making boost formula games might suck at making, say, an adventure-style Sonic game. Another developer might be vice versa. There might be a developer who sucks at both and needs, like, a new style of Sonic game to work on to show their strengths. Like, there's just different strengths and weaknesses for different devs. It's not really an insult to Sonic Team. That's just the way I feel about that. That's something I've kind of learned a little bit while working at Dreams. I've learned that I'm not good at making shooter games. I'm kind of better at making platformer type games. So, like, while I'm experimenting with both, I'm kind of leaning back into making platformer type games at Dreams because it's just what I'm good at. It kind of makes sense too because platformers were my first ever game genre. They were the first games I ever got introduced to. They're the games I'm most skilled and experienced with. Like, to really put it into perspective, I never played a game that wasn't a platformer until, honestly, until PS3, I want to say. That might sound crazy, but it's kind of true.
Oh, I think we could just smash it, darling. Although, maybe all that...
Like, PS3 was my introduction to non-platformers. PS3 was when I started playing Ratchet & Clank, which is still a platformer series, but it's got shooter mechanics mixed in. It's also when I got introduced to Resident Evil via Resident Evil Revelations 2, which was my first Resident Evil game. It's why I hold it so close and why I think it was so well done, because Revelations 2 was so good. It's what got me invested in the series. I would have never played RE7 if it wasn't for Revelations 2. And if I never played RE7, I would have never played the Resident Evil remakes. So really, I kind of owe Revelations 2 for really making me a Resident Evil fan, because it wasn't the only Resident Evil game I've played on PS3. I also played Operation Raccoon City, which kind of sucked. But Revelations 2 was the game that got me into the series that was like, oh shit, this stuff is so good. I kind of want to play more of it. And so when Resident Evil 7 came out, I played that, and I was like, okay, this is really good. Then I got Revelations 1, and I played that, and then from, like, I want to say 2016, since 2016, I had Resident Evil Remake, like the first Resident Evil Remake, on my, saved on my PlayStation account, because it was free for PlayStation Plus. But I had never played it until, like, 2018, after I had played Revelations. So, Resident Evil 1 Remake was my first introduction into the more horror, survival horror focused side of the series. Which, granted, every game I had played in the series up to that point, except Operation Raccoon City, had a good sense of survival horror. Revelations 2, Revelations, and 7 had a good chunk of it. And 7 was definitely, like, more horror focused. I don't know why I'm saying. RE1 was, like, the first game I played in the series that was entirely survival horror focused. Like, yeah, you had a gun and you could shoot, but it wasn't a shooter hybrid like the games I had played before. Because that's kind of what most of the series is. It's a shooter survival horror hybrid. And honestly, it and BioShock are both that. They're both shooter survival horror hybrid series. And that's why I like them. Because you gotta think about it. I'm not really much of a horror fan. I only like horror when it's like mixed with stuff I do like. You know, that's really what the gist of that is. Dead Space Remake was another survival horror shooter hybrid, but honestly, I really did not like it at all. Okay, I know I can get this yarn, so I know I've been rambling about stuff not relating to the game, but we are coming up to a boss fight now, so I do feel like I need to focus back on the game. Why am I missing this yarn? Okay, there we go. I was about to say. Anyway. I've been rambling about other games this entire time. I should be focusing on A Hat in Time. I know I mentioned have A Hat in Time a couple times when I was talking about like the good lineup I have for this volume around on games, but still. Am I I expected to make this. Okay, I actually made it. I was really sitting there thinking, am I expected to make that jump? But I actually made it. It looked farther than any jump I had made up to this point, so I was like, wait, what? In most games, I would not have been able to make that jump, but you have the dive in this game, which kind of like... You never know how far the dive is going to get you, in all honesty, so like... Jumps like that look impossible, but the dive actually get you there, and it's crazy. Okay. Do 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 do. Woo! Look at these pawns. For fuck's sake! After I said that, it just reminded me of Sonic Boom Rise of Lyric when they like comment on collecting the rings. I've never played that game, but I've seen Let's Plays and I've seen people like both complain and joke about those, like the game's comments about collecting rings and bounce pads and stuff like that. This is crazy. Anyway.
I guess that time is just for myself. The little dollar girl doesn't even know it exists. I don't think she'll miss it. It's time to go, hey!
Yep. For some reason, for the last couple days, I've had that like Final Fantasy VII tune in my head. Like for some reason, I don't even know why. I haven't played 7 Remake in so long, and part of the reason is because I can't Let's Play it. It's got a scene block at the end of the game that blocks out the entire final chapter. So, newsflash: you're never getting a Let's Play of 7 Remake from me. Unfortunately, because it is one of the games I really want to Let's Play, but you know, developers have to do the dumbass scene block thing. It kind of makes me glad that over time that like less and less developers are doing that, in all honesty, because it actually does seem like that, because from like 2016 to 2020 they were all over the place in games. But like ever since like I want to say 2021, I don't think I've encountered one game released 2021 or after with any scene blocks, which is amazing. I'm glad that like developers are finally like I don't know if it's the developers or PlayStation that does it, but whoever does it, I'm glad they're realizing that it's just a dumbass thing to do. Like Let's Plays and streams are kind of free advertisement for your game, so blocking scenes so people can't stream or Let's Play them is kind of stupid. Also, copyrighting videos that post your game is also kind of stupid for that same reason. I'm getting copyrighted for every .hack.gu video I post, but you know what? It's whatever. Honestly speaking, I'm probably going to turn off all the music in my .hack.gu Volume 2 Let's Play after a certain point, because I already have like a few hours of that game recorded, but after a certain point of the Let's Play, all music is probably going to be off just to avoid copyright, which means I'm going to have to edit in music, which might get me another copyright, because apparently the non-copyrighted music provided by Share Factory now gets copyrighted, which is why I don't use it anymore. Yeah, that's really it. That's why I don't use it anymore. It gets copyrighted. Because that's what I was using for Volume 2 of Run on Gaze. That I was using a jazz one, and it was really good. But then, like, suddenly it decided, okay, this is not copyright free anymore. You're going to get copyrighted every time. And it's not copyright strikes, and I'm not monetized, so it's not that big a deal. I just hate seeing copyright under my video, especially because whenever a video gets copyrighted like that, I can't make shorts out of it. That's why I've been like lacking on shorts so much this volume, because I tried to, like, last volume I was trying to like post a short every week, just about. Sometimes I'd miss a week, but it was a whatever. But for the most part, I was trying to be consistent with shorts. This volume, starting out, I can't do that, and if I don't turn off the music for my .hack.gu Volume 2 Let's Play going forward, for the recording, for the gameplay recording specifically, I'm gonna have to just... Okay, there's no way in hell I'm making that. I'm gonna have to just not have shorts for 2 out of the 6 Let's Plays I'm doing this season, so... Yeah, that's kind of...
Even if there was a giant
I got a gripe with that shit, like, seriously. I'm not even monetized. Like, it'd be different if I was monetized and the music... And you didn't want me to get monetization off posting your music. That would be different, but I'm not monetized. I don't have a big enough of a subscriber count yet to monetize. So, like, seriously, I am thinking about monetizing my channel one day if I get enough subscribers and shit, but not yet. It won't. I don't even think I'm allowed to. I think you have to have a certain subscriber count. So, like, I don't know why I get copyrighted for music and games when I'm, like, not even making money off it. I'm not even making money off these videos. So what's the fucking point? I'm not making money off your music. So why are you copywriting me? It'd be different if I was monetized. Well, it might also be more annoying if I was monetized because then I'd lose money, but you know what, it's whatever. At least in that case I could understand it because, you know, I'd be making money off your music. But you copyright me when I'm making nothing off it. And that's just so dumb to me. Especially because the music in question doesn't even seem like... Video game music, in my opinion, should be safe. It should be safe to post videos of. That is just facts. Especially because people streaming and recording your game to post on YouTube and stuff like that is basically free advertisement for your game. Shoot, half the games I get is because I see other people play them first, or they're already in series I'm a fan of, which, yeah. But the reason I got Hi-Fi Rush is because I saw Let's Plays of it. I was like, this game looks really good. Like, literally, I'm not joking when I say videos and streams of your game or free advertisement for your game, so I don't know why you're attacking people by blocking seeds and, like, copyright and stuff. Like, I'm like, fam, this is free advertisement for your game and you're like fighting against it. Anyway, because I needed to end this little rant before the end of the video, I'm gonna put like a random screenshot here. Probably something funny, I don't know yet, but I'm gonna end off the video here. Bye.